Every animated movie has that one side character who completely hijacks the entire film. Like they weren't even supposed to be the main attraction, but somehow they end up becoming the most memorable part of the movie. The hero's giving an emotional speech, and meanwhile, everyone in the audience is just waiting for that guy to come back on screen. And honestly, some side characters have so much aura, they accidentally become more iconic than the actual protagonist. Because sometimes all it takes is one scene, one joke, one insane entrance, and suddenly the entire movie belongs to them. So today we're looking at the animated side characters who completely stole the show. And trust me, some of these characters practically committed daylight robbery. Now being a side character is actually harder than being the main character. Because the protagonist gets the screen time, the emotional arc, the dramatic music, the big heroic moments. Meanwhile, side characters usually get like 12 minutes of screen time and a dream, but somehow, the best side characters still end up carrying the movie anyway. And the craziest part? A lot of these characters weren't even supposed to become fan favorites. They just showed up, started violating every scene, and accidentally became legends. So let's start with probably the smoothest animated side character of all time, Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots entered Shrek 2 like he owned the franchise. Because before this man even says a word, the movie already knows he has aura, the boots, the music, the dramatic eyes. Bro pulled up for 5 minutes and immediately became everybody's favorite character. And the funniest part? His entire fighting style is basically psychological warfare. Because one second he's doing anime sword combos, and the next second he's hitting people with this face. And somehow it works every time. That tiny, sad cat face genuinely had entire generations emotionally manipulated. But what really makes Puss steal the show is how ridiculously confident he is. This man never enters a scene normally. Everything is dramatic. Even coughing up hairballs somehow feels cinematic. And honestly, the Shrek movies are legendary. But Puss in Boots becoming popular enough to get his own franchise? Yeah, that tells you everything. Now, Puss had aura from the second he appeared. But the next character? Bro looked like somebody accidentally brought a tractor to life. Nobody expected him to become iconic. And somehow, he ended up becoming the funniest character in the entire Cars franchise. Mater from Cars. Mater genuinely feels like a character that should not work. He's rusty. He's weird. Half the time he barely knows what's happening. And yet somehow, this dude completely steals every scene he's in. Because Mater has something most animated characters don't, pure chaos energy. You genuinely never know what this man is about to say. One second he's telling ghost stories, the next second he's accidentally terrifying Lightning McQueen.
Zo vreselijk.
And somehow it's always hilarious. But the real reason Mater steals the show? He's weirdly wholesome. Like underneath all the stupidity, Bro is actually one of the most loyal characters ever. And honestly, Cars without Mater would lose like 70% of its personality immediately. That's how important he became. Now Mater steals scenes because he's chaotic. But the next character didn't even need words. Because somehow, a dragon with almost no dialogue became more lovable than half of animation history. Toothless, from How to Train Your Dragon. Toothless might actually be the greatest nonverbal side character ever created, because this dragon somehow has more personality, more emotion, and more aura than characters with entire monologues. And the craziest part? He steals scenes doing literally nothing. Bro can blink once, and suddenly the audience loses their minds. But the reason Toothless became iconic is because he perfectly balances cute, funny, and absolutely terrifying. One second he's acting like a giant cat, and the next second he's turning into a literal fighter jet. That switch is insane, and honestly, the flying scenes alone made him legendary. Because every time Toothless and Hiccup started flying, the movie suddenly felt like the greatest thing ever created. That's generational scene stealing. Now, Toothless barely needed dialogue to become iconic, but the next character could probably talk for 6 straight hours and still be entertaining, because Kronk somehow turned being an idiot into an art form. Kronk from Emperor's New Groove. Kronk is one of the funniest animated characters ever, and honestly, it's almost unfair how much he steals this movie, because every single scene with him feels completely unpredictable. Bro is literally the villain's assistant, but somehow, he has golden retriever energy, and the best part? This man constantly forgets he's supposed to be evil. Like Isma is over here trying to commit crimes, and Kronk's just worried about spinach puffs.
They're still hot.
Kronk, the Emperor needs his drink.
Right. Oh, right.
That contrast is comedy gold. But what really makes Kronk legendary is his inner shoulder angel and devil. Those scenes are still hilarious, because somehow his own brain argues with itself like a cartoon podcast. And honestly, there are people who barely remember the actual plot of Emperor's New Groove, but still remember Kronk perfectly. That's how hard he stole the show. Now Kronk is chaotic, but the next character? This man turned chaos into a full-time career, because every time he appeared on screen, it felt like the movie suddenly lost control of itself. King Julian from Madagascar, King Julian genuinely moves through life like consequences don't exist. And honestly, that confidence alone makes him unforgettable, because this man says everything with maximum energy. There is no normal conversation with King Julian. Everything feels like a live performance. And somehow, every line he says sounds completely ridiculous and iconic at the same time. But the funniest part? The Madagascar movies already had Alex, Marty, Gloria, Melman, and somehow the random Lemur King still became one of the most recognizable characters in the franchise. That's insane, and honestly, I Like to Move It alone probably carried an entire era of the internet.
Move it. You like to move it, move it.
Now King Julian steals scenes through pure insanity, but the next character managed to become iconic by forgetting literally everything. Dory from Finding Nemo. Dory should honestly be impossible to dislike, because every 5 seconds she either forgets something, says something insane, or accidentally creates a disaster, and somehow it only makes people love her more. But what makes Dory such a perfect side character is that she completely changes the energy of the movie, because Finding Nemo gets surprisingly emotional sometimes, and then Dory shows up, and suddenly everything becomes chaos again. That balance is perfect. And honestly, half the most memorable moments from Finding Nemo are basically just Dory being confused.
Will you quit it?
What?
Trying to swim here. What, the ocean isn't big enough for you or something like that?
Huh?
You got a problem, buddy? Huh? Huh? Do you? Do you? Do you?
Which is crazy considering she wasn't even the main character. But eventually, she became so popular she literally got her own movie. Yeah, that's elite side character behavior. Now Dory became iconic through pure randomness, but the final character on this list managed to steal scenes by acting like he spawned into the wrong movie entirely. Because while Frozen is over here being dramatic and emotional, Olaf is just happy to exist. Olaf from Frozen. Olaf is basically controlled chaos, because this man genuinely says whatever enters his brain immediately, and somehow it always works. The funniest part about Olaf is that he completely destroys the tension of scenes by existing. Characters are having emotional breakdowns, and then Olaf randomly starts talking about summer, and somehow the movie gets better. But what makes Olaf such a great side character is that underneath all the jokes, he's weirdly wholesome. Like bro genuinely loves his friends with his entire heart, even when he has absolutely no idea what's happening. And honestly, Frozen was already massive, but Olaf became one of the main reasons kids obsessed over the franchise. That's how hard he stole the show. And honestly, that's what separates legendary side characters from normal ones. The best side characters don't just support the movie, they take over the movie. Sometimes all it takes is one funny scene, one insane line, one unforgettable personality, and suddenly everybody remembers you more than the protagonist, which honestly has to be devastating for the main characters. Imagine carrying the entire plot, just for the audience to leave saying, yeah, but that side character was him. That's tough.